Greetings, listeners, and welcome to The Spiritual Experience, a show where we share stories of life, love, and redemption for all of humanity on Earth. So sit back and enjoy. Try to identify with the speakers and not compare. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and here we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back, Spiritual Experience. I hope you guys are staying warm. I hope you're getting ready for the holidays. So hopefully, you're not going to strangle any of your siblings or any of this other shit at Christmas. Feel free to stay home if you have to, or go do whatever debauchery comes up. So we are back, and we have special guests today. Somebody that I knew peripherally up until maybe 15 minutes ago when he finally showed up in my shop, in my real life, and not, he's been in my life, but just like not standing next to me. And it's, I'm grateful and I'm honored, man. And thanks, I appreciate that. So everybody say what's up to Matt. Say what up.
What up?
All right. So first things first, brother, where are you from?
I'm originally from Quincy, Massachusetts. I've been in the Hamilton, Burlington, New Jersey area since about 2006.
Nice. What was it like in Massachusetts?
Oh, it was great, man. Great place to grow up. You got it's the city of champions. Yeah, I'm a sports guy. So, like, you know, the first half of my life, the Patriots were terrible. The second half, they've been pretty good up until 3 years ago. So you got all these championships going on in the city. You can be proud of that, you know. And it was a good place to live. I got no complaints.
How far are you from like Boston area? Because I don't know that area at all.
Yeah, I was about there's a bridge that takes you from the city I grew up in into Boston, and that was about 5 minutes from my house. And the Ponce Bridge takes you right into Dorchester.
Yeah, I heard it's a tough town up there.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah. People blame the weather. They're like, you know,
it's cold as shit, man.
Right. Yeah, no, we have the same thing down here. Where I remember when I was a kid, I used to go on these missions. In the wintertime, I don't care. I'll bundle up. I'll go outside. We'll do whatever. Yeah. You know? Yep. You have siblings, or is it just you?
Yeah, I got an older brother. He's like 4.5 years older than me. He just had his birthday the other day.
Oh, yeah? Well, happy birthday for him.
Happy birthday.
All right. So, did you also play sports and everything growing up, or what was it like for you?
Yeah, I played hockey and I played soccer. I quit playing soccer eventually, but I loved hockey, man. That was my shit.
How were you doing in school or whatever?
School, I was good if I tried. You know, I would show up most of the time. I wouldn't pay attention most of the time, but I could pass the test.
Right.
You know? I liked English, so I paid attention to that. I liked to write, you know what I mean? But everything else was I was just there because they told me to be there. But yeah. I passed. I did okay.
Right.
You know?
Now, where did the writing, how did you do, were you also doing writing and stuff in your house or, on the side, or? I know that you eventually started writing music, and this is one of the, I mean, you have album out, which is fucking dope. But like, was that like a constant vein through your whole journey?
So yeah, I used to like write poetry when I was little. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I remember one summer my parents put me in like this art camp in the summertime. It was at
saying art, A-R-T.
Yeah,
just
art.
like yeah.
That's what I said. And it was like a week long or 2 weeks long. You did like, you made things like vases and shit like that. But there was like a 3-day time frame where they taught you about like haikus and, stuff like that, different types of poetry and stuff like that. And so I started getting into that a little bit. I always was attracted to taking the English language and flipping it and making it work to say something, but have a rhyme scheme, and that like always kind of baffled me, and I was drawn to it. I thought it was amazing.
That's nice. So, looking back, it's actually, it must make you feel good that your parents like supported you in that way.
Yeah. Well, so as I got older and like got into music, you know what I mean? Like dropped out of college, started delivering pizzas and making rap music at like the age of 20. We got to a point where I was in a group. There was 4 of us, and we had the album done. We paid for it, with our own money. And this was back when like you couldn't do it all yourself digitally,
Right.
So to get something mastered cost like $4,000.
Wow.
You know, to get the album mastered, and we needed to get the vinyl press because we had a DJ and we wanted instrumentals so we could do it the right way. And my dad gave us a check. He said, I want you guys to make it or fail based on the fact you had a fair chance.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So how many dads are going to, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
or even just, look, like, during that time, like, how old are you?
I'll be 45 next month.
Right, so we're from the same bracket. I'm
Yeah.
43. So during that time, there's not a lot of parents supporting just art
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah, you're
They
right.
were like, art, like, put on some fucking football pads, like,
Yeah. Go to college, get a job.
do something.
Yeah.
But like that, how, you know, how are you gonna? It's almost like, you know, parents from that generation who are not hippies, and because if they were, they wouldn't have been in New York or fucking
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Yep.
Like, they don't understand about being happy.
Right.
Like, you're doing this for the love, and like, yeah, you want to make money, whatever, but like, money or not, man, you're writing as a kid in your house.
Yeah, you'll pay to do it.
Yeah.
Pay to do this shit.
Exactly. When did so as you're going through school and everything else, like, when does the partying enter your life?
Oh, that came early. That came, matter of fact, I went to, on Thursday, I went to a detox that I go to a couple times a month and just bring a meeting in.
Right.
And I was sharing my story, and I always share that, it was either 7th or 8th grade, I forget, but I cracked my growth plate in 3 places playing soccer.
Yeah.
So I had a couple surgeries, you know, and it was after the first surgery, and I'm laying in the hospital bed, and I get the bed up, and I'm watching the little computer the little TV that's on the wall behind you, the little like 6-inch TV they used to have in the hospitals.
Right.
And I'm watching Webster on that thing, right?
Nice.
And I liked Webster, you know what I mean? And Webster was exceptionally funny that day, you know? The nurses were coming in. They were real nice. I was real talkative. The food tasted good. My aunt came and visited me. It was a great experience. Like, everything was just great. You know, I don't know why. You know what I mean? So fast forward a few years, maybe like 9th grade, and I'm drinking and smoking weed already at that point. And it's like after a party, my boy and I are playing Sega. It's like a Friday night, and he's like, yo, man, you want a perk? And I'm like, I don't know. What's that? I don't know what a perk is. He's like, it's a painkiller. And I'm like, I don't know. What do they do? And he's like, just makes you feel good. You know what I mean? So I said, yeah, I'll take one. So he had the little bottle of the old thing that the film cases used to come in, the black film case with the gray top. You know what I mean? And he shook it. And he said, I don't know how many are in there, but take as many as you want. And there was 7 in there.
Wow.
So I took all 7, you know? And about a half hour later, I felt exactly how I felt watching Webster that day in the hospital. I felt amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like fucking really into the Sega. I was itchy. I was excited about life. There was like nothing that was going to stop me, and everything was good, you know? I always kind of suffered from this thing that whether or not something was wrong, I was always waiting for something to pop up that was wrong. Like, always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right.
So at that particular moment, I didn't have that. You know what I mean? And I put 2 and 2 together, and I learned that, like, when I take opiates, I feel real good.
Right.
And I guess however old you are in the 9th or 10th grade, that's really, I was off to the races.
Yeah, we always say you can't unring the bell.
Yeah, it was on, man.
That's it. So what happens next?
So my mother had this book. She was a nurse, and she had this Bible of pills. So
Wow.
I stole that, and I studied up on, like, what was in the painkiller family, the opiate family, and I always, you know, fast forward, I wasn't like, I didn't become a junkie right away. I would get my hands on them whenever I could.
Right.
But it was like one of those things. I was constantly drinking. I was doing like a lot of coke. I was, you know, smoking a lot of weed. But like when the pills would come up, I would take them. Then the Oxy 80s came out, you
Right.
know, and then they were everywhere. And I became a full-blown junkie at that point. And after high school, I tried going to college. That didn't work out. That was my first time on probation. I was on academic probation because I was just partying, you know. And I came back, and I'm making music at that point, but I'm more or less just partying.
Are your parents like seeing what's happening, or
Well,
what's the deal?
They sat me down at one point. They were
Oh,
like,
shit.
What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, you used to like play sports. You used to like have a girlfriend. You used to like, you know, you used to like live life. Like, what's wrong? And I was just like, you know, I don't know. You know, I don't
Right.
know. I was in denial myself. I just thought that this is what you did. 'Cause
Yeah,
everyone
sometimes I think denial, it takes, just for me, like it takes knowing that you have a problem to be in denial.
Yeah.
At that
Yeah.
point, you're just like, this is just my life.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even that like the pills have taken over or the lifestyle has taken over. You know, I remember I used to say to people that just, so almost like I felt like I outgrew that.
Yeah.
I outgrew playing sports, and like, you know,
Yeah.
I wrestled most of my life, and I did martial arts, and I played football, I played baseball, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, I graduated to like, you know, women, beer, drugs,
Yep.
like, you know, Axl Rose,
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I didn't think that you don't see a little bit at a time. It's like creeping a drop at a time, and it's just overtaking your life.
Yeah, and that's exactly what had happened, and it was to the point where, like, before you knew it, like, I remember my buddy was telling me that I was addicted to the pills, and I was like, I'm not addicted, I just like to take them, you know?
Right.
And
How were you getting them at that point?
they were fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
They were, like, everywhere. But they were expensive. There was $1 a milligram.
Wow.
You know? So it started out in the beginning, I would buy, like, an Oxy 40 and just nibble on it. So I don't know how many milligrams I was taking, but, like, and that would get me good for, like, the whole day pretty much, you know what I mean? And then at the point where I finally switched over from the oxys to heroin, it was to the point where I was getting 10 packs of 80s fronted to me for $600, and my plan was to sell enough to make the 600 and get a couple for free, but I would always just do them all.
Yeah.
You know. So now I'm owing everybody money, you know, and I wake up one day and I don't have anyone to give me 10 pills, so I get sick, you know what I mean? That's when I realized, like, shit, man, like, if I don't have these, I'm sick. And I don't know how old I was at that point, you know?
What were you still living in your parents' house?
At that point, I was, yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't last very long, though, because they're the first people that I robbed, you know what I mean?
100%.
People,
Everything's for sale.
yeah. Yeah, it started with, like, I forget what it was. I think my dad had some, like, they were in the Peace Corps, you know, when they were, like, 21. So they had some African money, and it was like a good amount of it. It ended up being like $60 American, you know what I
Right.
mean? And that was the first thing I stole,
Yeah.
you know? And next thing you know, and then I got a job for my uncle, and this is when my process of how the rest of my life would be for a number of years started. I got a job for my uncle installing cable, you know, doing like fiber optic work. And then we had a falling out. I left working for him. I wasn't a good employee, you know what I mean? I'm on heroin, you know?
Yeah.
And I got a job installing cable for like a Comcast competitor back in Boston, RCN.
Right.
And so what I'm doing, I'm installing the cable, but I'm also robbing you, you know?
Yeah.
So what I would do is, if you had good stuff in the house, I wouldn't take it all because I'm not a bad person. I'm just addicted to drugs, you know what I mean? But if I needed it a couple days later, I would call him and I would say, listen, this is Matt. I installed your modem, or whatever it was, your cable box a couple days ago. Well, we're installing a new group of people. We're training a new group of dispatchers, right? And I think that they took down the serial number wrong to the box in your bedroom. You know, whatever the box was closest to. Like if they had a medicine cabinet in the bedroom, that's the one that I needed to swap out. If they had money in the kitchen, and I would say it was the box in the living room. So I would say, I just want to come back by and swap the box out and rectify this problem for you. They'd be happy to let you in, you know what I mean? And what I would do is, if I needed to get upstairs, I would say, can you do me a favor and just look at this TV down here? I'm going to turn the TV on. Yell up to me if this TV shuts off, because if it shuts off, then they sent the signal to the wrong box, and we're going to have to swap this one out too.
Right.
You know? And people are happy to play along because they think you're there to service their family, you know what I mean? And I would rob them, you know? So you do that enough times, you get caught, you get fired, you go to jail, you know, these things start happening. And
we're very like resourceful.
yeah, well, it's a lot of wasted talent, you know what I
Right.
mean? It's one of those things, it worked. People thought I was trying to help them, you know what I mean? Like, I feel bad about it now, but I know now there was nothing I could do about it back then. You know?
Right.
It wasn't like I woke up and I was like, I can't wait to go rob these people. It was like, it was more of like, I have to. And
Yeah,
if you
there's
felt
no
the way
choice.
if you felt the way I felt inside, you would do it too. you know? And then I also blamed it a lot on being sick, being physically ill from the lack of drugs, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I thought that was like my problem. Because ever since I was probably 15, like you mentioned, did my parents have any questions or anything? You know, people started telling me that they thought I had a drug problem. So, like, it made sense to me that I had a drug problem because
Right.
every time I lost a job, drugs were involved. Every time I broke up with a girl, drugs were involved, you know? Every time I got into trouble, drugs were involved. So I thought I had a drug problem, you know? So I guess it was like 2005, 2006. You know, a couple people died. My best friend committed suicide. He couldn't deal with the disease anymore. That's my take on it, you know? So I was kind of all alone because me and him were like running buddies, you know? And my uncle said, listen, man, if you sober up, I can get you a job out in Jersey. Because he got a job as a salesman for a Comcast subcontracting company out in Jersey. And I said, sure, no problem. I had nothing holding me back in Boston, you know? And so I didn't get sober, but my buddy had just got out of prison, so I got some clean urine from him so I could pass the drug test, you know?
Right.
So I come out here, I get the job, and I'm living in my Nana's car. My Nana let me borrow her car so I could get to and from work till I got on my feet. And I'm living in the car, and I'm doing the same thing I always do. I'm robbing people, you know what I mean? And there was this woman, and I tell this story because I think it really, for those of us in recovery, you know, it really kind of explains my alcoholism and my drug addiction. So there was this woman dying of cancer, and she had fentanyl patches, she had oxys, and I went to install her cable, and I robbed her, you know? And then a couple days later, I didn't feel good. So I did what I do, and I called her up, and she said, yeah, come on by, and her husband let me in, and I robbed him again, you know? And then it's like maybe a week later, and I'm sick, and like I'm not running into any money, I'm not doing anything, I'm not finding anything in people's houses. So it's a Sunday morning, I call them, they don't answer, I go to the house, they don't answer the door, so I break in, you know? And when I open up the door going into their bedroom, they're asleep. They're asleep, sleeping in the fucking bed, you know, on a Sunday morning, it's like 9 o'clock. And the husband, you know, I startle him, I wake him up, and he jumps up out of bed, says, what the fuck are you doing here? And I'm in my full uniform, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, Comcast, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? So I just took off running. And they called the cops, I got arrested. And what ended up happening was I was on the front page of the paper, Comcast employee, robbery, breaking and entering, you know. So as I sat in jail, all these new charges started coming in because people were like, oh shit, well, this guy installed my cable and my wedding band was missing. This guy installed my cable and $600 was missing. So I sat there for about 11 and a half months and before I finally got arraigned, you know. And I got arraigned on like 7 different charges. I was facing 10 years in prison for robbery. And my public defender was fucking amazing. And she got me a long-term program, a 6-month program. She got me 5 years of probation and $9,000 in restitution, right?
Well, what were you, when you were in jail, what were you doing to get high?
I wasn't getting high in jail.
Oh, so you got cleaned up.
I got cleaned up, you know what I mean? And I was like not really hating it either. I kind of expected to be going to prison. So I figured, like, I better get used to this.
Some of us think, and they go through this experience where, like, you get, like, a little bit of an exhale, like,
yeah,
like, all right, I know I'm in jail, but
I don't got to live like
right, that. Like, you know, the jig is up.
Yeah, they had to, when they brought me to the local police station before the county jail came and picked me up, they had to wake me up. Because I was like finally I was asleep, you know what I mean? I've been sleeping in the car for a few days. I hadn't eaten, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like you said, like I exhaled, like I don't got to do this anymore.
Yeah, you know who talks about that a lot is, oddly enough, is Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
He says, I had the best time in prison. Nobody was after me or my money or anything. Like I felt like I could just like, you know, all the drugs were gone, everything. Yep. I was just back to being who I was before the bell rung.
And you know what else? Like, you know, when you're running around getting high, like you have no coping skills and you have no life skills. You know, at least I didn't, right? So you don't handle it well. I didn't handle life well. So in jail, you have zero responsibilities. So I can do really well in that situation.
Right.
You give me a couple rules that I got to follow. You know what I mean? Like, be here at this time. Don't do this. Don't do that. So that's what happened. So they released me to the Salvation Army in Trenton, New Jersey, and that's how I ended up in the Trenton area. And so I got like 11 and a half. And this all goes back to, like, being told I had a drug problem and thinking, like, I got a problem with drugs, So I'm in there for 11 and a half months. I get released to the 6-month program. They gave you 2.5 hours every night. They gave you that time to go out to meetings. They had meetings coming in. I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, like whatever was available out there.
This is in like a TC?
It's actually a Christian program.
Right.
It's like a work program. Like you work 40 hours a week for how they got the Salvation Army stores.
Right.
So I would go to people's houses and pick up the furniture.
Yeah.
What was cool was that I was going to people's houses to pick up the furniture, but I wasn't robbing them. You know what I mean?
Like, no, but like you're living. Are you living with other men?
Yeah,
or like
80 other people are in
Wow.
there. Yep. There's 80 people in that facility. They give you 3 meals a day. You know what I mean? Like, they take care of you. They give you the rope to hang yourself on, which is essentially what I did.
Right.
I wasn't. Guys were going out, going to meetings. I would go to the gym, and I had met a girl. So that's what I was doing with my time. You can get, like, you build up time. You can get, like, weekend passes. I wasn't going to meetings. I was just going and hanging out with this girl. You know what I mean? So the guy, and I had a bad attitude, and like I had mentioned before this started with you, we were talking, I suffer from bipolar, but I didn't know this at this time. So I was either, like, real happy and loving life, or I was kind of, like, down. Those were, like, my 2 moods. There wasn't a lot of in between. It was like love or hate. Those
Right.
were, like, the two moods, So when things were up, I was good. When things were down, I wasn't doing good. And the guy that ran the program, he said something I didn't like about the girl that I was with. So we got into an altercation, and I was asked to leave that program. So I showed up at this girl's house with everything I owned in a trash bag, and I was like, "Hey, listen, I just got kicked out." And she was like, "Well, all right, well, come on in." You know what I mean? So the next day, I call my PO, and she says, "You got to come see me." And I go in and I see her. She says, "Can you pass a drug test?" I said, "Yep." And
Because you were clean at the time.
I was clean at the time. I hadn't done drugs, and at that point, like, almost 16 months.
Wow.
Longest time I've ever been abstinent since I first picked up, a beer back in at 13. And so I end up going in there. I passed the drug test. She gives me some grace. She says, "I'm going to put you in an intensive outpatient program, 3.5 hours a day, Monday through Friday. But you got to do the whole 6 months. I know you were almost done with the 6 months, but, like, I got
We got to start the clock again?
I got things I got to do here too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I gotta please them. I said, no problem. So I do that. I get a job pumping gas, and I do that for about 4 or 5 months. So I'm riding this bike that I stole from the Salvation Army to the outpatient every day. They're talking about recovery. I'm thinking, I don't really need all this extra shit. Like, I have a drug problem. I haven't done drugs in this many months. So the problem has been removed. You know what I mean? That was, like, as far as I was willing to take it. If I have a drug problem and the drugs have been removed, so is the problem.
Right.
So, like, I'm good now. I just continue to live my life, So, I'm still with that girl. I'm pumping gas at night. I'm going to this outpatient thing. And everyone's real proud of me, And what happened was my dad had done my taxes when I was in the Salvation Army from a few years prior to that. And I got, like, $800. So that hit my account. And I was kind of like, damn, I thought it was, like, a large amount of money.
Yeah, I have arrived.
Yeah, like, I'm here, $800. So I remember riding my bike back. It was February from pumping gas one night, and I'm freezing cold. And I'm thinking, this can't be life. Everyone's fucking proud of me, but, like, is this really it? This can't be it. Like, I deserve better than this.
Right.
I had never done anything with my life, but I deserve better than this, So I woke up the next morning, and I had the thought that I'm going to go get 1 bag of dope, So I call the outpatient program, and I say, my girl's sick. I got to take her to the hospital. I won't be in today. I call my boss. I say, my girl's sick. I'm going to take her to the hospital. I'll keep you posted. Because I didn't know, maybe the dope was going to be real good, and then I'll like pumping gas, just like I really liked watching Webster that day.
Right.
You know? So, but maybe I'll fucking fall out and I won't make it to work. So, like, I'll keep you posted. You know? So, by the time I went to the ATM 2 blocks away, I had talked myself into getting 10 bags, just in case it wasn't any good. You know? So, I go downtown Trenton. I find a kid that looks like he gets high. I said, listen, man, you get me 10 bags, I'll give you 3. I give him the money. He comes back a couple minutes later, puts 7 bags of dope in my hand. We both get tackled by the Jump Out Boys. You know, it was a Tuesday, right? Yeah. So I'm like, oh, fuck.
First day back in the game.
First day back, you know. Not very good at this thing.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm in the back seat of the car, and we're taking a little 2-block drive to the lockup. And they're like, don't worry, buddy, we'll get you some help. And I'm like, help? Like, I'm in an outpatient program. I just made a mistake. Like, basically, you can let me out here. You know what I mean? Like, you can just let me out. This was a lapse in judgment. So then I start thinking about how I'm facing these 10 years. I just violated. Now I got new charges. I'm probably going to prison, and I didn't even get to get high. So now I'm, like, upset. You know what I mean? Well, it's Trenton, and they don't really give a fuck, right? So I'm in there for 45 minutes. They give me a court date for the next day, a piece of paper, what time to be there, and they let me go, right? So I always say when I tell my story that I don't know what a normal person in that situation would do except not be in that situation, but let's just say they tried to cop dope and they got arrested. They'd probably like go get a coffee, take a nap, you know, any number of things that were like not what I did. Well, what I did was I went to an ATM, took out all my money and went back to the same block that I just got arrested on. I got all the dope that I could get with the rest of my money, and I went back to that house that I was staying at with my girlfriend and decided to get high, you know what I mean? And I went on a run for like a year and a half before I finally did get sober. And I tell that story because, you know, again, like I had been told that I got a drug problem. I thought that if I remove the drugs, then the problem is removed. Well, that showed me, and I didn't learn this till about probably I was sober a year and a half. I had already done the step work, you know what I mean? And the book talks about the mental obsession, and it talks about the physical allergy. You know, you got that mental obsession, you can't stop thinking about it, and then once you do it, you don't know when you're going to stop, you know? So it showed me, that experience showed me that I always thought I robbed people because I was physically dope sick and because I was on drugs and I had a drug problem, you know? Well, I wasn't physically dope sick that time. I had been abstinent for about like 19, 20 months at that point, you know? And it showed me that I had a thought, and I went on a fucking mission on just a thought. God tried to intervene and stop me, you know? I thought I was going back to jail, getting violated. He let me out. Said, we'll see you tomorrow. You know what I mean? And I went back to the same block and got dope and got high. You know, so I went on a mission on a thought. So it really showed me that, like, my disease, and, like, let's not forget those 20 months abstinent from drugs wasn't all that great. I wasn't really enjoying my life, you know?
See, that's the thing. The thing is, like, you have this thought that says, I deserve better. Mm-hmm. But, like, you were just going for feeling better.
Yeah.
Not, like, actual better.
Doing better.
Which is like, okay, I made it this far. I should be grateful. And then this isn't the end. How do I sit down? I'll make a plan. What's the next step? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're like, no, I need to feel better right away. It's like that old friend.
Yeah, I couldn't take it anymore, man. I couldn't take the way I felt anymore.
Yeah, what do they call it? Dry. You couldn't take being dry.
Yeah, I was basically a dry drunk without even like I wasn't even going to meetings. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wasn't doing anything. I was just trying to raw dog it, and it didn't work out, you know?
That's how I'll feel after, if I don't do this kind of stuff and I'm laughing. And, bro, I don't know how people go for like, you'll be in a meeting, right? And everybody, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody's like, yeah, I haven't been to a meeting in like 4 months.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think I would make it that long personally.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I would pick up, but I would be destroying everything.
Well,
like I'd go home and all of a sudden my fucking woman is not hot enough.
Yeah.
And I don't have the right this. I don't have the right that. Like that little, I said, like an old friend, But it's just like that voice that's inside you that says, when is it going to be my turn?
Yeah.
When am I going to get a shot? I need to matter right now.
Yeah,
Blah, blah,
everything
blah.
sucks.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I did that. I had like 5 years sober in AA. Life was great. You know what I mean? I was like sponsoring guys, taking them through the book, you know, and like I started the business. You know, we're in the same field. And I got pretty busy. You know what I mean? So like, you know, I'm a guy who like didn't pay his cell phone bill when I'm out there getting high. You know what I mean?
Right.
So having like a mortgage and 3 car payments and all that stuff, I can do all that stuff no problem when I'm plugged in.
Right.
When I'm sober.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when I'm just dry, it's too much for me. You know? So what happened was I had like 5 years sober. I got like real busy. And I just decided like, well, you know, I go to the gym, I work, and I go to AA, and I spend time with my family. Like, I can't give up on my family. I don't want to give up on the gym. I can't give up on work. So, like, let me start going to less meetings.
Right.
You know, so that's what I did.
Are you at this time, once you get cleaned up, when does the music start coming back? Or how do you feel about that?
So music's always been there for me. So I got like, when I don't know what, I was in elementary school, and my aunt I got a tape deck, and my aunt gave me Billy Joel Stormfront and Run DMC Raising Hell.
Right.
Both fucking great albums,
Sure.
you know? But the Raising Hell, like, I was like, yo, this is insane.
Yeah.
You know, rap was still kind of new then. Like, it had been
Very
around,
new.
but it was still new.
No, we're the first generation.
Yeah, and I was just like, yo, like, I really dig this shit, man. This is, like, some amazing shit. Like, because Run DMC, they weren't, like, real angry. They were just, like, spitting bars, you know what I mean? Like, they were just kind of doing their thing. And that opened up a whole new avenue. That was back when MTV played music, like, Yo MTV Raps, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, like, music was one thing besides drugs that could take me out of myself. You know, one of my favorite things to do even to this day is drive alone and listen to music. Because if music's on, no one else has to be in the car.
Right.
You know, it allows me to like plug into that. And that's what I like about rap, man. They, you know, you can listen to the same album for 20 years and you'd be like, yo, that's what he was saying.
Right.
You know, that bar right there, like that's what he meant. And it fucking blows, it flips me out. You know what I mean? It bugs me out. So while I'm getting high, I used to write a little bit, but I would usually throw it away, or like, you know, that dream kind of died. I would listen to it, but I would still make up rhymes, but I was like, you know, I'm never going to do that because I'm like a piece of shit junkie. You know what I mean? When I got sober, I started writing again, but I was married. I married that girl whose house I showed up with at the trash bag with everything I own. We got married when I was getting high. I thought that would buy me some time, you know. I never even told her I was writing rhymes. You know, I just used to do that like something that was just mine, you know. And, you know, still big into music, but not like my own type of shit, you know. And, yeah, getting back to like being miserable in AA, like I pulled away from the meetings. Then I kind of stopped praying. Then I like wasn't going to any meetings, man. And I did that for a couple of years.
Oof.
Yeah, and like when I tell you, I had a lot going for me, but I couldn't see any of it. You know, I couldn't talk to my parents. They annoyed me. My wife fucking annoyed me.
Everything was a disruption.
Everything was in my way, and it was slowing me down. I had no goal. I had no end goal, but everything was just in my way.
Right.
You know? And
you already won. All you could do is go out there and lose now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good way of putting it, man. That's kind of what I felt like. I made it, and I wasn't satisfied, you know? And I woke up one day, I came up for air, and like my marriage was dissolving. I was fucking furious, and I couldn't even tell you at what, you know. I felt empty inside. You know, I felt very much like I did when I was riding my bike in February, years and years and years before that, thinking like, this can't be life. This can't be fucking life, you know what I mean? And I thought to myself that, you know, I don't want to get high right now, because the obsession to get high was removed when I got sober in 2009. You know, I said a quick prayer. I said, please help me. I don't know who I was praying to, but I woke up the next day and I haven't wanted to get high since then. And I feel like the obsession had to be removed because I got a lot of work to do on myself. and I can't possibly do the work if I'm fighting that demon, you know. So that's what I think happened with me, and you know, I woke up one day and I realized how fucking shitty my life was, and I thought to myself, if I continue to feel like this for much longer, I might get high.
The clock is ticking. You could tell.
Yeah, and that scared me. You know, I had a 3-year-old at the time, and he might have been 4. I didn't want to let him down. I had the business, which my ego was attached to, you know.
Sure.
I didn't want that. I didn't want.
You had extra money.
Yeah. I didn't want people to see that fail because that's me. You know, you are your business, especially a small business like we have. So, you know, I called my sponsor, who I hadn't talked to in quite some time, and he was like, "Man, I've been waiting for this phone call. You know, meet me here." And I met him at a meeting that night. And from that moment forward, I decided I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get and stay sober, but to be happy, you know? Because there was a lot of time in the first 5 years of my sobriety that I was genuinely happy.
Right.
Because I was doing the work, you know what I mean? I was doing everything that was asked of me. It wasn't until I pulled away from that I started to get miserable again, you know? So, you know, I went back to therapy. I used to go to therapy when I was a little kid. I went back to therapy.
But willingly.
I checked myself in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's a big thing. It's one thing. Look, sometimes people will say whatever excuse they have to say, and the help has been there the whole time, but we wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Then the one day they're like, no, I'm here because I want to be here.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now you're emotionally, mentally like ready, and it could still be the wrong therapist, and it's okay because you'll find the right one.
Yeah, none of that shit matters.
It's tough because like when you see that in somebody else, you can smell it. You can be like, yo, that motherfucker's not ready.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I feel bad and I'm not saying it to talk down on people, whether it's people in my family or people in the rooms or just my kids, like whatever. But I also know that until they're ready, they ain't not ready.
Yeah.
Because until I was ready, like you weren't ready stealing fentanyl patches or this, that, or like jailed. Like, no, like you weren't ready to look at that part of yourself until those moments. Like that's what it took.
Yeah.
You were like, yo, the Reaper is 6 weeks away.
Yep.
And now I have shit that I can really fucking unload. I'll sell everything. I'll do everything, and it's
Pull
not
up a U-Haul.
Right, and it's not even your own. It's not even somebody else. It's your own stuff.
My own shit.
Yeah. Now you can do it right.
Yeah.
If you listen to that fucking demon, and you were like, you're very lucky.
I'm real grateful and real fortunate that like I didn't go down that route. You know what I mean?
So what was it like when you first signed up for therapy? When you're like, okay, now I'm gonna have to fucking look at that.
You know, it was around that time that my wife at the time and I sat down and we decided, like, you know, the damage had been done. I verbally abused her for a number of years.
Sure.
You know, she's a really great person. She's a great mom. We're like friends today. You know what I mean? But, you know, the damage had been done. It wasn't one of those, like, I'm going to change. You just got to wait it out. Like, she wasn't willing to do that.
And rightfully so.
And rightfully so. Like, and good for her for realizing that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, because that's a big gamble.
Yeah,
you know, it's you know, I think about that also too. Like, you know, I talk shit all the time about like I'm grateful my parents even still talk to me.
Yeah,
you know, because if somebody did to me what I did to them,
no doubt,
I would never. I'd be like, even as a sober man, it would take a lot for me to forgive that.
Yeah,
you know, so good for her that she was just like that. She even knew. Like, listen, I'm already over the line.
You know, it was my mother's birthday a couple of days ago, so I ordered her a candle off Amazon, and it says, "Mom, I hope this candle smells better than the shit I put you through."
That's
you know
perfect.
What I mean? And if that doesn't sum it up, you know.
So you have to sit down with your wife. What happens next?
We decide we're going to get separated, and you know, and she mentioned to me, she said, "I think you're bipolar," you know. I said, well, I think you might be right. You know what I mean? So I go to therapy, and he's like, it could be, you know what I mean? So I go to him for a few months without going to see a shrink, you know? So I go and see a shrink, and he diagnoses me with bipolar type 2.
Yep.
Which is like, you know, comes on a little bit later in life, I guess. It can. I kind of think I might have had it the whole time, you know what I mean? But it's just smaller cycles. So instead of being, you know, up for 3 months at a time, you'll be manic for a couple of weeks, and then you'll go into, you know, hypomanic, they call it, and then you'll go into a downward spiral for a couple, maybe a week or even a number of days, you know what I mean? But they can repeat quite often, you know what I mean? So I start to get on medication for that, and that made a big difference, you know?
What was the adjustment period like, going from being like chemically medicated? Because now it's just like, no, it's not like that I'm a junkie and then I'm sober.
Yeah.
It's like there's something else. There's another layer.
Yeah, there's another layer.
So when you first get on that, what was that like for you?
So, you know, when you're ready to listen, like you were talking about, when you're ready to absorb what's being told to you, and your sponsor sits down and reads the doctor opinion and explains to you what an alcoholic is, and you finally, and I don't know, I had the feeling at that moment that, like, okay, so like I'm really not just a complete piece of shit. I actually have this disease, and it's like no doing of my own, but there's actually hope and there's help, and you guys have a way of getting us out of this. Like, so that was a really good experience for me.
But it also puts the responsibility on you.
You need to be ready.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you're also going to be like, all right, look, it's not my fault that I'm a drunk, but it's my responsibility what I do with that information.
Right.
Now I can't just be like, oh, well, sorry, I'm a drunk. Like, no.
And what it takes for me to be ready is like ruining my life time and time again.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what it takes for someone like me to be ready, is I have to almost lose everything with 5, 6, 7 years of sobriety. And then I'm ready to fucking do the work. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I start the medication treatment. I start seeing a shrink. You know what I mean? And I ended up staying single for a couple of years. I figured, let me work on myself. You know what I mean? My ex-wife, now she's my ex-wife. I had my son 3 to 4 days a week, every week from day one.
Do you guys live nearby?
We live near each other. You know what I mean? So like, she never tried to keep my son from me, even though I was like newly diagnosed with like a mental illness and like, you know what I mean, getting back to like being sober and stuff like that. So I'm like real grateful for that. You know what I mean? So 2 years go by, and I'm going to therapy. I'm going to AA. I sold my business. You know, I'm just trying to work on me, you know? So unbeknownst to me, I'm still having manic episodes, but I don't realize it because I'm like living alone. You know what I mean? It's less of a manic episode than it was before. Like my old manic episodes was when I buy $12,000 worth of rug washing equipment on a Tuesday on a fucking thought. You know what I mean? My new manic episodes are like I spent $400 that was supposed to go to another bill. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not as bad, but it's still there.
Yeah, like it's low impact.
It's low impact. It's doable, you know?
Right.
So I'm not really realizing
but
that.
But it's masking because it's low impact. You're like, well, I'm not throwing a plate at her.
Right.
Fucking spaghetti again.
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
But
well, that was another. I'm glad you said that, because my fear, like I've always had fear my whole life, it always comes out as the emotion of anger. Mm-hmm. So from the minute I started taking this medication, I wasn't angry anymore.
Right.
So like I kind of thought everything was cool.
Yeah.
I kind of thought everything was cool. Well, you know, I started dating again, and you know how that goes. And then I met this really great woman in AA, and you know, we hit it off and introduced her to my son, and everything was just like phenomenal. And we end up moving in together, and she starts noticing, like she knows I'm bipolar, like I told her, you know what I mean? And she starts noticing that like I'm a little bit manic, you know what I mean? So that was probably a year and a half ago. We had been together probably 9 months at that point. And so I ended up getting a new shrink, because the first shrink I saw was like not really into like changing anything. He was like, oh, you're fine, you know? So I see
Yeah, because he's like, all right, you're off the ledge.
Yeah, you're not like angry. You're not like.
Which is like a half. It's not like I wouldn't say half measure in a bad way, but like sometimes, you know, he did his. It's like he thinks he did his job.
Yeah.
And he did. But there's more work for you. Again, you're the one who's accountable now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't just be completely reliant on them.
And to be honest with you, I loved the medication because I had 0 side effects from it.
Right.
I feel a little foggy sometimes at night after I take it for like a couple hours, but I'm home in bed, so it don't really matter, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just happy I'm not angry all the time.
Right.
You know?
So you get the new guy.
I get the new guy, and he's like, man, you're like on the beginning dose of this thing. Like, you're not even on like the dose that's supposed to keep you stable. Like, we gotta up your dose. You know what I mean? So over the next 6 months, up until, well, maybe 9 months or whatever, up until, I get my months mixed up, but like up until about 4 months ago, we've been consistently up in my dose, where now I'm finally at a dose that works, you know, because I was still having manic episodes. They weren't, but it was weird, because I knew I didn't want to be manic, so it would make me feel bad.
Right.
And I would almost get like depressed.
Yeah, like
that.
guilt.
Yeah, I think it was guilt, man, because I was like, man, how's this affecting my family? You know what I mean? My son's 10 now, so he's real aware of what's going on, you know?
Right.
He knows I'm bipolar, like we talk about it, you know? So,
Let me ask you something. Do you have any, like, sometimes when my kids are all older, right? So when I was sober and my son was younger, I used to be like, oh, maybe my son has what I have, right? So, because I used to see the way, just his way he behaved, his mannerisms, whatever, and so, like, you can see some of yourself in them.
Yeah.
Then I would get scared, and then come to find out, it's like, nah, dog, I'm childish. He's at the right fucking spot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the one that's like, whoa!
Yeah.
Like, you know, but there's that thought, because you have, like, because you know the pain that comes with what we have.
Yeah.
You know, and then you look at your kid, you're like, oh, he can't stop running around either. Oh my God, maybe he's blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, maybe I'm fucking 10.
Yeah.
And instead of him being a sick person, so you don't run and grab him and just fucking like overdo it with him. Like, you know, did you have like those kind of ideas?
I have them quite a bit, actually. Yeah,
That's funny.
Like, I think about, like, I hope he doesn't have to go through what I go through.
Right, but you know that, but you also know that it's you, and he's just actually at the right.
He's just being a kid.
Yeah.
He's just being himself. Yeah, he's just being a 10-year-old.
Yeah, I used to think that, like, because my son, like, yo, kids get depressed for no reason. It's not really depression. They're just having they're like adolescent.
They're bored.
Yeah, they're like, oh man, it's almost like, you know, one day it's fucking Chili Peppers, the next day it's like Nirvana, and they're all fucking drippy, like, this world is like, you know, and for me to not be paranoid and go in and try and micromanage that's my job.
Yeah.
Because that's my obsession, to be like, oh, no, I have to blah, blah, blah. Instead of letting it just kind of play itself out.
Yeah.
So you got this girl, you got this 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, and, you know, so I finally get my medicine on the right path. Now, during this whole time, you know, like, I got back into AA heavy again.
Good.
You know, so me and 3 of my buddies, we've been doing this for like, I want to say 5 years. We meet on Thursday nights, and we started with the Drop the Rock book on steps 6 and 7.
That's a great book, people.
Great fucking book. And like, early in sobriety, I thought that was for like girls, because girls would always do that. And I was like, that's like, must be for like females or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought it was like kind of corny. You know
Right, a
what I
little
mean?
step study, like.
Yeah. And it like, you know, what I got from that book was that, you know, I'm much more afraid of things than I thought I was, you know, and that fear, I basically live with 2 emotions, and it's fear or love. And the fear always shows itself in anger, you know, and the love shows itself like as it should. Sometimes it's not healthy love, you know what I mean? But it showed me that if I can work on what I'm afraid of, then I'm going to be a lot happier, you know? And so like that, we went from that to like, then we did The Secret. You know what I mean? Then we started doing Emmett Fox books, and you know, we've done, I don't know how many books we've done, but we meet every Thursday for an hour and do a book study. Now we're listening to it on Audible while we read it, so we kind of get like another person kind of narrating it all fucking nice and peacefully for us. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just been a really great experience. You know, my home group, you know, just doing the AA thing mixed with the mental health aspect of it. It's really got me in a good place.
And just also, you know, for me, it's like, you know, AA and 12-step stuff is that's the fucking foundation of my house. Mm-hmm. You know, I read and I still listen to so many books that are not like quote unquote AA affiliated or whatever, but I'm not even open to somebody else's ideas unless I'm rooted in recovery. Because if I'm not that, then they all have to be my ideas.
Yeah, Exactly, dude. And that's very well said. And, you know, and it goes back to what you said about being ready.
Right.
You know, if somebody had shit like the law of attraction, like I love that shit, right? I think it's amazing. I would have scoffed at that if somebody tried to show me that 15 years ago.
Right.
I would have scoffed at it when somebody tried to show me it at 3 years sober. And I was like sober at 3 years sober. You know what I mean? I wasn't ready till I was ready, you know?
Yeah.
And I was only ready because I was back in the book. I was back doing the step work. I was back in the program, you know? And that allowed me to be open-minded enough to, like, get some new stuff to come in. And the reality is, no matter what book we read, it might as well be an AA book because it's all saying the same thing. We got to give ourselves over to a power that's greater than ourselves, and they'll take away all of our problems.
Yeah.
And help somebody.
And help somebody else. That's the other thing. It's like, you know, people don't know that, you know, when you give, it's like the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
And it's so bizarre, you know, but I used to always say, and the way I explain it to myself is like, you know, am I seeking security or serenity, right? So security, I got to have my arms around everything. No. I need this. I need that. I need blah, blah, blah. Serenity is like, look, I know that if I put this out on earth, other stuff is going to come. And it took a lot of faith in the beginning to learn how to live like that.
Yeah.
You know, but then, and it's not even that other stuff is going to come. It's, I'm going to be grateful for what I have, that I have this to give, even if it's just my time.
Yeah.
Or it could be it doesn't have to be money, it doesn't, whatever. But just like to be like, you know, thoughtless, is the whole thing. Like where, you know, I talked about this with this guy who I love. His name is Tony. He's I don't know what they call him, deacons or whatever, right? And I used to, and what I surrendered to now, if you ask me 6 or 8 months or a year from now, maybe it'll be different.
No doubt.
Right? Because I'm on like a constant evolution like you. But not feverishly like looking for peace, but I'm just like, I'm always open.
Yeah.
So I always say, I don't know what happens after we go into the ground. I don't know if I'm going to go pearly gate or if there's, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know that while I'm here, maybe this is the heaven.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing right now. This is everything that they talk about in the books, in the Bible and this and that. Like, this is it, where like you get to really experience like the love of God and the love of humans and the love of everything, you know, with empathy and whatever. And it doesn't mean that like, okay, like they say, you know, back in the day, like when they written the big book, it was like 1930, whatever. And they're like, oh, well, you can let a drunk guy in your house and maybe he'll burn a mattress. Not a big deal.
Right.
Fuck all of that.
That's not happening.
Right.
Today.
Listen, I'll take you to the detox any day you're ready.
Yep.
You call me in the middle of the day, and if I can't run right there, I'll have somebody. I can have 700 phone numbers. I'll have somebody sitting next to you till I go when I'm done work, and then I'll help you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like, this is the heaven. This life, and then if we live this life like it's the heaven, and there's something after this, it doesn't even matter if there is, because we just passed this time. Like, how do I want to pass this time? Do I want to be fucking dry, angry, you know, resentful, judgmental, whatever? Or do I want to spend as little amount of time being like that?
Right.
It never completely goes away, but I'm like, okay, you're being a little bit of a dick here. Go get a cup of coffee and a folding chair.
Yeah.
Hang out with your buds. And then, because it resets our perception. You know, it's all disease of perception. You're on the fucking bike. You're like, meanwhile, your life was better than it had ever been. Ever.
Yeah.
But in your mind, you're like,
yeah,
this is fucking bullshit.
It wasn't enough.
Right. So it's just like, I need other people to help me clear my own vision on what I have.
Yeah.
You know, which is just, bro, I'm a fucking junkie loser.
Yeah, and the more we help other people, the less angry we are.
100%.
The more grateful we are, the less angry we are.
Yeah, because like you just need to, my job was to put myself in a position where I can do that.
Yeah.
That's my whole fucking job is like, dude, my job is to be ready for them. You know, not to be like, not to be one of these guys that like, there's people in the rooms where they're like, oh, I have 27 sponsees and all this other shit. And I'm like, dude, my job is not to go around collecting fucking stray dogs.
Right.
My job is to be like, bro, this door is always open. Any of you pets want to come in, you can come have a fucking meal. You can come sit down and chill with me. You can come do whatever. I'm not a dog catcher.
Yeah.
My job is to be like, this is the place when you're ready. Because I also know that, just like we've been saying, until you're ready, you're not ready.
Yeah.
No matter what. People are like, they look at it from the outside. It's so funny. It's like you have people who are outside of your own life and be like, this motherfucker has mental illness.
Yeah.
Right? But because they're watching it and you're in the eye of the storm, so you don't even know. You're like, nah, dog, I'm okay. Yeah,
I'm fine.
$400. Thank God I don't have to rob somebody for the $400.
Right.
But I got the $400 to spend on fucking 2 pairs of sneakers and whatever.
Yeah.
Now I'm like sober. You know what I'm saying? But real, and then you were willing to accept that, is it possible that maybe they were right? The people who loved you, people who are next to you watching, is it possible? Because up until then,
I wasn't ready.
It was impossible.
I kind of thought that everybody lived like that.
Right.
That extreme high, you know what I mean? And that extreme low.
Or sometimes people just blame it like, all right, I guess I have to live like this for the rest of my life because I did so much cocaine, so much heroin, and I fucked myself up. And this is like the penance that I have to pay. But at least I'm not jumping off the ledge and I'm not robbing liquor stores or whatever. So, like, you're going to live in that cycle of, like, suffering.
Yeah. And it feels real good, man, to be like, I'm pretty chill right now. I'm pretty chill most of the time. I don't get too worked up. And to be honest with you, I'm still learning how to deal with that. Because I'm used to I was talking to my therapist about how, like, sometimes, like, I produce most of my own beats. And I'll, like, make it like a banging beat. And I'll be like, yeah, it's pretty dope. You know what I mean? Now, the old me a couple of years ago would have been like, I got to write to this right now, make something right now, like, because I'm up and I'm chasing that. And I'm like, fuck it, and I maybe I get the song done, maybe I don't, but, like, it feels real good to be chasing that. Now, I'll make a beat, I'll kind of put it away, like, I'll go listen to it a couple of days later. It's much more mellow. And I was explaining to my therapist that sometimes I feel like maybe I'm just not into it the way I used to be. He's like, you're confusing pleasure with enjoyment. You can enjoy something and actually have a bad time at it. Like, you can enjoy fishing, but if you don't catch any fish, your line gets broken, all that stuff, you can still enjoy the day even though you didn't catch any fish. What you're used to seeking is pleasure because of the way that your brain worked and the chemical imbalance. Your pleasure receptors were wide open, and, like, it's like everything has to be an orgasm. Nothing can just be like a good deal.
Yeah, I think it's also like, what do you call it? Like, you have, like, it's almost like faith. Like, like, this is, I can work on this thing and it's not going away. I can put it down and it will be there later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's like a hard thing to really, that takes like recovery, not like just like sobriety where I'm abstinent. It takes like recovery and be like, you can be like, all right, I don't need to put 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah. As fast as I can.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna play a piece of one of these records and then we'll close out with you guys. Oh man, it was great having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I had a blast.
Yeah, this thing is called, where's the one that, I like them all. Oh, Beautifully Imagined.
Beauty Imagined.
Beauty Imagined. All right, let's see. Make sure this comes through nice.
Man, I don't think I gotta take my pills no more because I feel good. Know what I mean? Shit's going good. Back at it. You relate to that shit? Yo, stuck in this fight script. Fuck it, I might feel chumped when my high hits a low and I'm like a bitch. Feelings Sounds like they got roughed up by a nightstick. Yielding to this thing like I'm Kobe and it's Mike shit. High pressure, mind stress and pacing my thoughts. Shot heroin to stop all my racing of thoughts. No celebration, just a vacation of sorts. A day later, now I'm sick and it's worse. What's the cause? Was a happy child? Where'd I go wrong? What happens now? Pack it in or try to go the extra mile? My life is fabricated like a textile. Walk around like shit's good with a fake smile. Up to no good, my mania will spend wild. Leave my rational thinking on an exile. Bipolar, but I'm no blind soldier to the game. It comes and goes like it always plays out the same. I just need some relief. I got beef with my brain. I gotta keep it real, gotta keep my head up. Don't let nobody know I'm fucking fed up.
Spiritual experience.
I never let up. If you down with this bipolar shit, it's time to get up. It's time to get up.
All right, you guys can find that on all streaming platforms. Hectik, Hectik, The Bondage of Self.
Yeah.
Matt, it was wonderful, man. Love you, brother.
Jake, thanks
Peace.
for having me, bro. Love you.
All right, bye. Okay, everybody, we'd like to thank you for joining us on the Spiritual Experience. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, Pandora, everywhere. And please find us on Facebook where you can become part of our family. We'll see you around.